Hi guys, in today's video I want to talk about the latest Wheel of Time episode 5. Just a disclaimer before we get into it, I will be sharing my thoughts, positive and negative, about the episode, but just know that it's fine if you love the show, if you hate it, if whatever, it's fine. It's just my opinion on the show. I still think it's a good show, not necessarily Loki. I still think it's a good show, but I have thoughts as a fan of the series. But yeah, just know that it's okay to love the show. It's okay to have negative opinions of it. So just be friendly, basically. And yeah, let's get into it. So I will have some criticisms, but I do want to begin on a good note. So let's start with the positives, the things that I really enjoyed in the episode. And these are mainly the fact that I really like the way Nynaeve and Mat, Perrin, and Loial, them four, were portrayed. I really loved the actors playing the role. Like, they do a really great job. I was very scared when I saw the pictures of Loial. I was scared that it was going to put me off, but it didn't. I really liked his portrayal. It was great. Like, it really incorporates Loial as I would have imagined him. And per usual, I really liked Barney's portrayal of Mat and Marcus's portrayal of Perrin. They do a really great job. Like, they do a great job with the amount of things that are given. Like, they have so little scenes in this episode, but they still really shine in it, even though we have like 5 minutes of them basically. But I still really appreciated them because they know how to portray their characters really well. Another thing that I really liked in the episode was how lively the Tinkers looked and how lived in the caravans and everything. Like, the set was full of people. It looked like it was not abandoned. It just fits in and it feels not like a set, which is a major issue in my opinion with this episode. But the Tinker section of the episode was great, and seeing Aram and Perrin and Egwene interact was really cool. But this is where my problems begin, because I didn't like the way the whole episode was shot, the way it was edited, the way it was filmed, especially the scene with Nynaeve when she first meets Mat and Rand. It just is awkward because we get from a scene of her talking with Liandrin, and Liandrin tells her to go to the gardens, and then we cut back to Mat and Rand, and then she just jumps into the shot.
Did you know that Ogier have access to the White Tower grounds?
No. But why?
I went there and found the woman you spoke of.
Not to mention how clunky Loial's line is, and this feeds into a larger problem with how the show handles exposition.
Each of them has her own goal, her own agenda, her own pride and ambition. As powerful as you are, these women have spent decades honing their strengths, masking their weaknesses, and when news spreads of your presence here, which it will, you'll be expected to become a novice immediately. And if you're not careful, those tower politics will eat you alive.
The Battle Aja. Warriors strain to defend humanity from the Dark One at the last battle.
And I feel like a lot of the awkwardness that we get from the actors is because of the fact that it's not edited well. Especially in the scene with Ela when she gets slapped by Eamon Valda. It looks like she didn't get slapped. Like, it looks like it's a fake out slap. Obviously, actors do that, but it's shot so badly and it's edited so badly that you can see it. And for some reason, they kept that in there. Even though if they would have switched up the angle or done something different, it would have worked. Like, the awkwardness wouldn't have been there. And I really dislike the way on another topic, I really dislike the way the White Cloaks look. Like, why do they have to have a fade? Like, I know you cannot outrun a fade, but maybe they could have, because it looks very 2021. And it put me off. Like, it took me out of the story constantly when I saw them come in and slapping all the Tinkers. It's just, it doesn't work. Another big issue is the way the sets are lighted. First off, the ambient lighting. Because the actors are so broadly and flatly lit, none of the set's natural colors show up on the actors. Here, Liandrin is clearly lit from off-screen, which doesn't match the practical lights seen on-screen. Here, a clear example of where Liandrin has bright white highlights on her face in a scene that's lit by flickering torches. And here's another scene where the flickering practicals don't seem to show up on the actors. Another thing that affects the atmosphere of the show is the fact that so many of the shots have even exposure on the background and foreground and props, and so every shot looks flat and dull, making the sets and props look cheaper. Not to mention that most shots are in sharp focus with no visible depth of field, so you can constantly see any imperfection in the props and sets. It feels like every single scene is an establishing shot, every single scene is lighted by one big source of light.
Now you will be watched over by an altogether different king. And what do you hope to gain from facing all of this?
The knowledge to build upon, a foundation.
We must preserve only the most essential pieces of civilization, deciding what is remembered, what is forgotten.
You can clearly see that in the Wheel of Time, the lighting is very flat. The sets lack atmosphere. I feel like every single shot we got from Tar Valon is like an establishing shot. Like, I see too much. The light is too bright and you can clearly see every little nook and cranny, and you shouldn't be able to do that. Especially if you consider that maybe the budget was a problem because they weren't able to like build all over and have a bunch of sets with a bunch of props and everything. Okay, you do that, you just build a hall, but just don't put so much light that you can see everything, because every single shot we get from Tar Valon, and not Tar Valon, just the White Tower, especially the White Tower, it feels very, very empty. Like, I didn't even think that we were in the White Tower because we weren't introduced. It was just, you're here. It's just a room. I was like, okay, no grand, like, Nynaeve, you're from Edmondsfield. Now you see Tar Valon and the White Tower. No, it's just them walking into a random room that's completely stark empty of any props. And I don't like that because it takes away from the grandeur of the moment. Also, the sets themselves feel too small and cramped. There's a distinct lack of haze or any kind of atmosphere to help evoke a more immersive fantasy world. Also, the blocking, shot composition, and framing are oftentimes awkward and can come off as very bland. Another thing that really breaks immersion is just how crisp and clean all of the costumes look. For example, here's how Logain looks after a month of traveling on the road, and this holds for nearly all the characters. And this isn't just related to cleanliness, but how the costumes just don't feel worn in or used. There are no scrapes, tears, or severe discoloration in the clothes they wear. And I really did not like the fact that we spent so little time with Rand and Mat. It's just like a month has passed and they're here, because we don't understand the struggle that they went through to get to Tar Valon. It looks like they just anybody could get there. Like, it's cheap and he has money to spend on a month's pay.
Can't believe a night here is more expensive than a month in the ones we're in. We're looking for somewhere cheap. Even if it's just a tarp, we have some money or we can work for it.
Like, what? Like, why is that line there? Like, it's just weird for me. And I'm very hopeful that in the next season the directing will be better and the editing especially and lighting will be better, because it will take a lot of the burden of the fact that it doesn't look good. Like, the awkwardness and the feel of the Wheel of Time will be there because it doesn't look like a fantasy series. Here it feels like you're on set because even the windows are open. Like, you cannot see where your characters are. You cannot see Tar Valon, the city. You cannot see Dragonmount. You cannot see anything. It feels like they're on a set and Nynaeve is just trapped in Tar Valon. And also it feels like the White Tower is just a little house because everybody seems to be running into each other constantly without any like, oh, maybe I'll go search for Moraine or something. It's just like, I'll step out and she's probably there with the rest of the crew, like waiting for me to interact with them. The entrances feel very theatrical, like every single scene feels like I'm watching a theater play unfold because it doesn't feel organic or natural. It's just convenient to have characters at the right moment, at the right time. Like they find each other constantly because that's the way somebody wanted it to happen that way. And I don't like it because you could have had a tracking shot of Moraine walking through the White Tower and getting to see more of the White Tower and feeling that it is more than just a hallway or just a place to burn rings in, you know? And that's what I feel that it lacks a lot because of the directing and editing and all these things combined. Because even if you don't have the budget, even if you don't have the means necessary to create a grand like set, if you know how to shoot it well, it'll look good. I feel like there's no sense of geography. I'm not just talking about where our characters and cities are, but in a scene as well, like in just the Winespring Inn or in the White Tower. I just don't know how things are and how things go and where the rooms are, and everything is just, I'm confused, I'm lost. Like it's just a hallway basically. The only exception is a scene with Stepin and Lan, and that's when you get to see the actor having that light on his face. Otherwise, they don't seem affected by the practical lights, and it's jarring, it's off-putting, it's taking me out of the story itself. Is just weird to look at. And talking about Stepin, I really did not like the fact that we spent so much time with him in this episode. I understand that they tried to show us a parallel between his bond with Carini and Moraine's with Lan, but we could have just focused on Moraine and Lan's and shortened his storyline and had more time for our main characters because we don't get to see them. And I know I'm not going to say who the Dragon Reborn is, but I know because of the fact that the Dragon Reborn thing is a mystery. Now we have our main characters that don't have any depth. Like we haven't spent so much time with them. We don't know basically anything about them. And this is really sad because you could have kept that mystery, which in my opinion is really weird to have a mystery about the Dragon Reborn because there are other things that you have mysteries about in the Wheel of Time. Either way, you could have had that, but still given depth to our characters, given them characteristics and things. They just feel very one-faceted. And it's just sad because you can learn so much more about the world through more organic exposition, not just using these characters that you introduce at the beginning of an episode and then kill them off at the end. And this is something that I really did not appreciate in The Walking Dead, which happens a lot. Because we've spent so much time establishing Stepin's backstory and his relationship with Carini and giving him depth and emotion and a lot of screen time, only to kill him off at the end of the episode. And that's just a lot of time wasted. And this is time that we could have spent learning more about the other main characters, because Stepin obviously isn't the main character. Because I've seen that done with Tom as well. We got him in an episode, we had some amazing scenes with him, and then he was killed off. We had a lot of scenes with Carini in the beginning of the 4th episode, and then by the end she was killed off. We had great scenes with Logain, and he was a great Dragon Reborn contender, and then his storyline was killed off by the end of the episode. I would have preferred to have these the time that we spend on these dead-end plot lines be given to our main characters, and you could have still used Stepin, but for a much smaller time period. Like, he could have killed himself or ran after Shai Al Ghul at the end of the 4th episode or the beginning of the 5th, and it would have been more impactful if he like got to bury Karini and we see him get depressed, and he slips it off in the camp that we had with the Aes Sedai, and in the morning Lan sees that he is missing, and everybody asks Lan, where's Stepin? Do you know where Stepin is? And he's like, yeah, I know, he went off to Shai Al Ghul. And Lan having no emotion, because he knows what losing your Aes Sedai would mean, and he knows what a warder would do in that extreme state of desperation. And it would have hit so much more harder, because you would have understand how desperate a warder is if he is willing to go to the Blight to kill himself, basically because he lost his bond. And to see Lan not really react to it, because he just accepts it. He's like, say your prayer to the dead and move on, because we have more battles to come. That's way more impactful, and it shows more depth to the character than it did spending so much time with Stepin. Like, I really like the actor, I really like his performance, but I think we would have done better spending more time with our main characters and understanding them more, because so far we don't know much about them. Like, we really do not. And I personally don't mind the logistical changes. Like, I don't mind if, like, Lan said that Tar Valon is his home, and I was like, okay, I thought Malkiri was, but I don't mind that. It's another turning of the wheel. But I do mind when there are inconsistencies that I can see, and they like forget the rules that they said in a certain episode, like with with the White Cloaks with Valdo. Like, why didn't he ask Moiraine if she was an Aes Sedai or not, if he knows that she is binded by the 3 oaths?
One of those witches once told me that you don't actually need your hands to channel. That the use of the hands of any motions or words is just a crutch.
I can't channel.
There. We've proved it then. Because Aes Sedai certainly cannot lie.
And I know that you can say that maybe she would have attacked him, but like, isn't his goal to capture Aes Sedai as we've seen so far in the show? So why wouldn't he ask Moiraine that question, but he asks Egwene? And I find it very weird that he was so set on finding Perrin and Egwene, because he just didn't have any reason to be so adamant to find them and search for them and capture them and like torture them. Like, why would he do that? Because he just met them on a road and he told them that I'll remember your faces, but they didn't do anything wrong for him to be like, I saw you before, now I see you're a delinquent and I'm going to capture you. Like, why would he just jump to the conclusion that she was an Aes Sedai? And another thing that irked me was that Moiraine specifically told Egwene in the Weep for Manathorin scene that an Aes Sedai usually travels with another fellow Aes Sedai so they can both heal each other when needed. And in the scene where Nynaeve tells Rand the story of Egwene when she was sick, it seems like Egwene healed herself.
She just lay there the whole night while her own body tried to break itself in half. And she didn't cry. Not once. And she refused the wisdom's tea. In the morning, the fever had broken. Not her.
Like, she is unbreakable. And I know in the book that Nynaeve heals Egwene, but it wasn't like in the show. They didn't tell us that Nynaeve, after visiting Egwene, got a fever and felt very nauseous, and that was like the first step to unlocking the one power. It seems that Egwene healed herself.
You reached out and you touched the source. You saw how small you are in comparison to it.
Also, with the fact that Nynaeve told Rand that Egwene was refusing drinking the tea that the wisdom gave her to release her of her pains, and she was not crying at all even though she was a child, it makes Egwene too cool already, like from the get-go, and that just lessens the impact of her arc, because we already see that Egwene is amazing. She doesn't cry, she cannot be broken. Like, I would have liked that to go on for a season or a few episodes, and I can actually see that. I don't have to be told. I would prefer to be shown how Egwene is unbreakable, because she is an amazing character. Like, I know they like put it in comparison with what Egwene was already going through, but it still didn't hit as hard, because they just keep on piling how cool Egwene is constantly. Or, for example, when Lan asks Moraine if Logain is as strong as Egwene, that feels weird.
Is he as strong as Egwene?
I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know.
It's just, it's too fast for us to know anything about how powerful Egwene can be. And it's much more satisfying, and it pays off better if you have these character growths in a more slower burn. Because if you're just force-fed that she's cool, when she really does something cool, it won't be as impactful as it should have been. As I've said before, I'm not minded by the logistical changes and cheating that has to happen in a TV show, but I really don't like the fact that they changed Lan so much. I do like that he shows emotion in certain scenes, and you see that he's not as stone-faced as usual, but I just don't like the ending to the episode 5, because it just shifted my perception of Lan. And I've read all the books, like I know how Lan is, I know how stone-faced he is, and it just doesn't make sense for him to be so affected by the loss of a warder that maybe he was friends with in this turn of the wheel, maybe he was really good friends with, but like throughout the series he loses people that are way more important to him than Stephen could have ever been, and we don't see that emotion, that level of emotion come out of him. And the thing that irks me most is the fact that even though I really like Daniel Henney's portrayal of Lan and he really fits the bill, I just don't feel that it is as impactful as it should have been, because we always see him smiling, we always see him joking and feeling and being angry and doing a lot of acting with his face. And now that we got an impactful scene, for some reason it isn't as impactful, because I don't find Lan as stone-faced as he was in the series. Like it isn't the same Lan, because now when something tragic might happen that would provoke this emotion from Lan, it won't be as impressive, because we've seen him cry like that for a warder that he barely even knew. Oh, and another thing, talking about staging and the way the things are shot, I really find the scene with Perrin and Egwene escaping the White Cloaks kind of goofy, and it just doesn't seem as threatening as it should have been. I also would have liked the way that Perrin finally is in tune with something deep inside of him. I won't spoil what. I would have preferred that to be explored rather than another scene of him bringing up Layla. And the fact that everything that we got from Perrin is just him being sad about Layla is just too much now. And I understand that it's a very traumatic experience, it's something horrendous, but because they did the fridging trope and they included something so fundamental to a character, it's very hard to get rid of it. And because of that, every single scene with him feels redundant. And this moment, I really felt it, because it would have been a great opportunity to introduce that little part of Perrin, that little something inside of him, but they went with Layla again. And I would have liked Perrin to save the day, like Egwene freed him of those restraints, and him going off at Valda, not not Egwene saving the day again.
What are you?
Valda drops his knife and Egwene picks it up not even a full second after it hits the ground. There's really no sense of anticipation or suspense. Everything happens incredibly quickly and scenes don't seem to breathe because of it. Not to mention how easily they escape the camp. It feels very contrived and unearned. The scene just isn't very exciting, and it shares the same problems with the cold open of episode 4, where it feels like Logain conquers a city of just 3 people. The scenes just feel underpopulated and empty. And Valda, the fact that he got so easily scared by Perrin having golden eyes, like he saw how big Perrin is. I don't think that he was scared by how massive Perrin is. It was just that he had golden eyes, and they did Valda so well at the beginning. He was so frightening. He was just the right amount of sinister because he's the guy that hunts Aes Sedai. He hunts dark friends. He isn't scared of anything paranormal or supernatural or whatever. But now he just gets frightened by a pair of golden eyes. And I just didn't like that. A guy like him would have always been prepared. Like, he should have known that. You're a dark friend. Like, I'm ready to do whatever it takes to bring you to the light. And he just got scared and started praying. And that's just weird because they dumbed Valda down, and now you cannot be scared of him because you saw how easily scared he can get. Like, just put some contact lenses in and you're good with the white cloaks.
Yeah, protect me.
And after that, instead of getting like a cool scene with the wolves and the wolves interacting with Perrin and everything being really well choreographed, we got a lot of off-camera shots of wolves attacking white cloaks. It just didn't look good. And I didn't like the fact that the wolves are constantly barking at Perrin. I would have liked if the wolf came up to Perrin, like licked him or did something to show us that he isn't trying to like threaten Perrin in any way, because when Perrin said that he isn't trying to do anything to us, I was like, are you sure? Like, he seems menacing, and I don't think wolves just bark, you know? And I really hope that from the further episodes and further we get and further seasons, we get to see and have better choreography. Like, I want to see Lan a blade master. Like, the scene with him and Stephen training was underwhelming. I want to see him at the level of like Henry Cavill in Witcher, and I just want to see how cool Lan is. I want to see better fight scenes and the wolves better integrated. And I want, because there's like, as much as I went off on this episode, as much as I've seen like things done bad with the lore, it's still salvageable. Like, I still do really believe that if they keep things in check and they do a better job at directing and editing and lighting scenes and the choreography of the whole ordeal, like to not feel like a theater and dumbed down, it'll look really well and it can still be really good. And when we know who the Dragon Reborn is, then they'll stick more to the adaptation, because I really don't like the fact that we keep on saying that it's just another turning of the wheel. Like, I understand that you have to make some changes and maybe you want to put at the forefront like Nynaeve and Lan's relationship and explore it more, because I like that. But it's still an adaptation. Like, you still have to respect the source material. You still have to include scenes from that source material, because I don't think we have a single scene from the book. Like, and I'm not saying like a one-to-one adaptation. I'm not exaggerating things, but it's still an adaptation. And I know that it's been said that Eye of the World is very hard to adapt. Like, you should have known that, first of all. And also Fellowship of the Ring, it's just a 3-hour movie and a 700-page book. You have 8 hours to do a 800 or 900-page book. You're good. Like, it's not a lot that happens. There's not a lot of fight scenes. You can change things up if the budget doesn't allow, or like film like fight scenes at night because it's easier to cheat and it looks more atmospheric just from the get-go. And I really hope that from the second season they find their footing more. They will do a better job overall, because the actors really do deliver. Like, that's the thing that I don't have any complaints with. I really like Yasha acting as Rand. I really like Nynaeve. I really like Barney and Rosamund Pike. I really like them. Like, they do an amazing job. So the material, the lumber is there. You just have to sculpt it in something beautiful. And it happens. You have certain scenes that are good, but you just need to find your footing more. And yeah, I'm still hopeful for what's to come, even if I see some glaring issues. They are still manageable and solvable. But yeah, I'm really sad that I really would have wanted more of our tavern boys and girls, more of our main characters. And we should focus less on characters that in the book are focused less, because they're focused less on with a reason. Like, I don't need to know everything about Lan. I don't need to know everything about Moraine. They need to be more mystical, you have to be more suspicious of them. You don't have to really know everything about them. Even though the actors do a great job, and I understand why you would want them constantly on the screen, it ruins the end game. It ruins the feel of, oh, we're sheep herders and this is all brand new to us. It's scary how brand new to us it is, because I want to see them awe and gawk at everything around them, because they're new to everything. Basically, they didn't even know Trollocs and like Fades were a thing. And yeah, I really hope that it'll get better, because they have everything that they need, and they've done a great job in the other episodes. Like, episode 3 is great because you have intimate moments and you have scenes that they're shot better. But it just, from the fourth episode and the 5th episode, we're just focusing too much on something that is a dead end, basically. And yeah, I still I'll give it like a 7 out of 10, a 6.5 out of 10, which is good. But I'm very, very excited to see what comes next. Like, I'm not hating, I'm not saying it's the trashiest thing. It's still a good show, not a great adaptation, but a good show. And I'm really curious to see what you think about. I know I said some hot takes out here, so it's insane, but I'm very curious to see, what did you think about it? Did you like it? Did you like not enjoy it? And I'll catch you guys next time with hopefully more positive things to say about the episode. But I'm just keeping it real. Like, I tell them as I see them, and these are just my thoughts. So I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.
What are you doing? What is that? I recognize that. What is that?